listening to The Bradshaw Boys, a podcast where three relatively grown men binge the iconic HBO series Sex and the City. So dust off those DVDs and grab yourself a white wine or even a Cosmopolitan and settle in. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to the Bradshaw Boys, a podcast where three guys watch their way through Sex and the City for the first time ever, mostly. I'm Cory Cavin.
I'm Kevin James Doyle.
My name is Jon Sieber, and today we're greeted by a very special guest. I think this is the first family member that we've ever had on the show, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
other than Katie, my wife, but we're greeted by today we have Dr. David Sieber, my very own brother, who's going to be joining us for season 6, episode 14.
Wow.
Welcome, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Dave,
Thanks
have
for
you ever done a
having me.
podcast before?
No, I think this is my first time actually.
Really?
Whoa.
So the reason that we asked Dave to join us for this particular episode is we don't know what happens in the episode, but we know that Samantha considers getting plastic surgery, and Dave is a world-class plastic surgeon in San Francisco, and we thought who better to have on the pod than a doctor who is familiar with what that procedure's like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dave, well, John, go ahead. It's your brother.
Well, usually we ask all of our guests what their relationship to Sex and the City is like, and I'd like to hear from you. Is this a show that you watched growing up that your parents allowed you to watch?
Well, I mean, if people are listening to this or haven't listened to the podcast for a while, they know that, we weren't even allowed to watch He-Man or Thundercats. So Sex and the City was absolutely off limits in the Sieber household.
That's true. Not allowed.
What have you seen any now? Like what to this point? Do you know who Carrie Bradshaw is? Do you know any of the characters?
Yeah. So I've listened to the podcast some. I'm familiar with the characters. I haven't ever sat down and watched all of them. It's one of those things that's kind of like on my bucket list, but it's I've just never gotten around to it.
Sure. Yeah. Does your wife watch it at all?
No, she doesn't. She wasn't one of those women who kind of watched it in college or with her friends. So it's kind of not like, we're familiar with it because it's so pop culture, but haven't really spent a lot of time like diving into it per se.
That's surprising because Caroline is very fashionable. She's very like stylish. She's like, it seems like she's really into that. Like all the elements of Sex and the City seems like something that Caroline would have really been into.
That's what I was thinking. I think I've met your wife like maybe once at John's wedding, and I was trying to find a way to say that your wife is like a woman of substance and looks like someone who is like very glamorous that would have watched this show. Like she seems like she's fashionable and like into it and stuff. But then you were like, no, she's never watched it.
Nope, never.
Yeah. Well, you're about to watch it with us.
Yeah. Are you excited?
Yeah. Are you excited?
I am excited. It's fun to be on here with you guys.
I think doctors don't have time to watch TV, right?
That's
like
true.
You're too busy. You're too busy doing other stuff.
Yeah, it was just like charting.
What does that mean? What does charting mean?
Oh, you have to write notes on everyone. This patient comes in for this, and this is what they want done, and then you have your physical exam.
That's funny because that's my job on the show is to do the charting for the show because Kevin and Cory won't do it.
That's
you get it.
No charting.
No charting.
I refuse to do it.
You do.
Before I ask it, I don't have a question per se, but what annoying question do you get asked the most as like a plastic surgeon?
Well, like I was talking to my wife actually about this when I got home today. The one impossible question, which is kind of a red flag during the consultation, is when a patient asks you if they're going to be happy with the outcome.
Ooh.
because that's like,
Oof.
I don't have a crystal ball, but if I did, I wouldn't be a plastic surgeon.
Is that kind
Yeah.
of them like putting out bait to see whether or not they think you'll fuck up their bodies?
Probably.
How do you answer it?
Yeah, how do you answer that question?
I tell them I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't have any idea if they're going to be happy.
You know what you should do? You know what would be a really fun thing is you say, well,
I do
listen.
have silicone balls though, and I think they're going to look great.
Yeah, exactly.
Those should make you happy.
Dude, you got to be like, you'll absolutely be happy. And then as you're putting the anesthesia mask on them, just go, I lied.
Yeah. They wouldn't
Do you
remember
listen to
anyways.
music while you do you listen to music while you do surgery?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you listen to? Because I had to have shoulder surgery like a year ago, and I have this doctor he's actually like the doctor for the Knicks. He's Dr. Robert Leeds.
Dr. Robert Leeds.
But he like he's a very like mild mannered guy that's been practicing for a long time, and all the nurses are like, he likes to listen to Metallica.
Yeah.
Which was I just was so interesting to me that they also when they were putting me under, they literally started playing Another One Bites the Dust, which I thought was kind of important.
What?
Maybe
Yeah, they
that's
did.
probably good for
We
good
talked
for
about
shoulder
it when
surgery.
I went back. What's that?
That's like probably okay for a shoulder surgery. Anything else,
Yeah.
probably not recommended.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
What can you enlighten us at all into the process of like any person that becomes a doctor? Like you can be any type of doctor, and I know that there's certain types that like I've heard a lot more people become gynecologists because you have a like a regulated schedule, so it's easier to take vacations. I don't know. I could be making that up. I think I heard that, but what made you? And some people are like, I always wanted to go into this type. What made you want to go into plastic surgery? And when did you realize that?
It was in medical. I think it was medical school when the show Nip Tuck. I think it was on. Was it on
Oh,
FX?
yeah.
Maybe, or I don't remember what show. But I was like, you know what? That looks kind of cool. No, that was. I think what actually happened is when I was in medical school, we had these different clubs you could join. They were like interest groups. So there was like dermatology interest group and like the general medicine interest group. So I went to the plastic surgery one, and I, as part of the thing, you got to like go watch a plastic surgeon like do a procedure, right? So I went and I watched this breast reduction, and I know tons of people get breast reductions because it helps with the neck, back, shoulder pain. And as a medical student, I was sitting there watching this, and during the breast reduction, you kind of like take the whole breast apart, and then you remove the extra tissue, and then put it back together. But as a young medical student standing there watching this breast kind of like all flayed open, I was like, you know what? I sure hope this lady knows how to put this thing back together or we are in trouble. And she did. She got it all back together. And I was like, wow, like that's pretty cool.
That's
Wow.
awesome. I'm sure it really helped the person who got the reduction as well.
Oh, yeah, it makes a huge difference. It's one of those procedures that has a huge, huge impact on quality of life.
Wow.
Jeez. What is like, I mean, we don't have to get too specific, but like how much weight would the average breast reduction remove from someone who's doing it?
Oh, it could range. I mean, it could be anywhere from. We usually do it in grams because everything in medicine is metric, of course. So every kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. So it could be anywhere from like 200 to 300 grams up to like 1.5 kilograms, which would be like 3 pounds a breast. So,
Geez, so that's like 6 pounds.
Yeah, a
Wow.
ton of weight. So
that's a lot of weight. That's like a baby strapped to your chest that you're taking off.
Mhm.
Small baby.
Yeah, it
Right.
makes a huge
I don't know
difference.
how much that's wild. That's insane.
Does that affect when you're saying put the breast back together? Is that like if you have a breast reduction, is that all just fat, or do you have to take glands or anything out too? Does it affect?
Yeah, so
and if you did breastfeeding, would that affect breastfeeding?
Man, you have good questions tonight. Yeah, so it's like part just fat. So there's basically like a layer of fat, and then there's like all the regular old breast tissue. So you take out a little bit of both, really. And as far as breastfeeding goes, because you are removing some of the tissue that makes the breast milk, most women after breast reductions can still breastfeed. But worst case scenario is that they don't make enough breast milk to sustain the diet of the baby. So then they might just
Mm,
need to supplement it with formula. But all
mm.
the things, the
Gotcha.
latching, the connection with the baby, you still got to do all that stuff, but you just might need to supplement the baby's diet a little bit.
Gotcha. Wow. Man, that is that's what's the biggest surgery you've ever done? Is there like a thing that's like something that was like very like marathon, something you're really like proud of? Like what's the biggest thing?
Well, there's like the longest surgery I think I was ever in was like 25 or 26 hours, which was like
Good
What the
Lord.
fuck?
yeah,
What
it was a
happened?
bypass in this large patient. So it was like and this was when I was in training, like a general surgery resident. It just took the surgeon forever to try to find the blood vessels that they needed to bypass. Um, and then I've been in like, crazy trauma cases or removing cancer. Probably the most, I've taken people's lungs out for cancer. I've done something called a Whipple where you take out part of someone's pancreas and then like plug it into part of their small intestines and rearrange their intestines in their stomach and stuff. So there's been some crazy stuff.
I
Man.
think that's like a general misconception that people probably have of plastic surgeons that I've learned having a brother that's gone through it. Sometimes like plastic surgeons get this rap because it's like an elective cosmetic surgery that maybe I don't know. There's like stigma about it, but like most plastic surgeons, or at least my brother in particular, is like the most qualified. Like they've gone through all the surgeries, all the things, they've seen it all. And like just because they end up there doesn't mean they're not like haven't seen the shit that like other surgeons, other doctors, other medical people have seen.
Mhm.
Well, I guess going along with that before we go watch the episode, because I'm sure there'll be some plastic surgery discussion after. But
Mhm.
what is your response, or what is your feeling on like? I feel like already there's been a cultural shift from 20 years ago to just be like plastic surgery, and now there is more of a accepted nature to different procedures in plastic surgery, even like Botox. I think on your Instagram the other day you showed the effects of Botox. I don't think Botox jokes happen on television like they did in the 90s. People were like Botox, and now people are like, I know people that get Botox and they're like, it's not that big a deal. I guess what would you say is like one of the most fulfilling parts of your job and what the benefits of plastic surgery that you feel like is misunderstood or misrepresented within culture?
So I think the biggest thing, especially when it comes to cosmetic procedures, is people kind of like always think about them differently. Where if someone's in like a bad accident or they hurt their hand and they go to a surgeon and they fix their hand, they can use their hand again. So they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, you really helped that person because you like made them whole again. But there's a lot of people I
Mhm.
see who, talking about breast augmentation. Some women are just born with really small breasts, and they
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel like incomplete and almost like I don't want to say like they were gypped, but they're just not happy with how their bodies look.
Mm-hmm.
And or even women who've had a bunch of kids, and as a result of having kids, you have all this extra skin on your stomach that wasn't there before, but you have these beautiful children now. And a lot of these women come back after surgery and they're just so grateful because you were able to kind of make them whole again, or fill in like that missing part that they weren't actually born with. And they're really grateful for what you do. And some people come back and after breast augmentation and they're like, I feel like this is what I was always supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And people are just really happy. They're like, this has changed my life, what you did. And I think the misconception is that the things that I do don't really make that big of an impact on people's self-worth and self-being, that it's just kind of for cosmetic reasons. But it really has a strong emotional impact on a lot of people who come and see me, which is great. It's super fulfilling for me to see that.
That's awesome.
Mm. That's cool.
Well,
Let's
we're gonna
all
watch.
gamble right. I want to
Okay.
all real quick just guess what surgery or what procedure Samantha gets.
Uh,
Well, I I feel like I might know a spoiler that I don't know if y'all know.
Don't spoil this particular episode. I don't know. I think she goes in and gets a breast augmentation.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna spoil it. I'm pretty sure she goes and gets the John Travolta face off thing. She gets another face put on her. She gets another person's face put on her face. That's what it is.
She gets Nicolas Cage plastered on her face.
She gets cage faced. That's what it is.
Why did you ruin that?
I'm sorry. I just we said spoilers are off the table. They are.
Yeah, we have said that for a long time. Kevin, what do you think?
I think that it is a facelift. Like, I think she's comfortable with her breasts. I think her body's fit, and I feel like it's going to be wrinkle based.
Because she's in her
I feel like that would go along with the storyline of her character, that it's somehow like wrinkles or something like that. That's my guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna watch the episode, season 6, episode 14, The Ick Factor, and we'll be back.
All right.
Episode 88, The Ick Factor. Carrie finds Aleksandr's classy, old-world romantic gestures and attention a little overwhelming, and it turns her stomach. Miranda prepares for her non-traditional wedding to Steve. Charlotte and Harry's romantic French dinner leads to a night of the runs. Samantha considers a breast augmentation and receives some unexpected news. And now, back to the boys.
Wow.
We're back. Wow.
Welcome back, everyone.
Ooh. Wow. I didn't know. I guess we're like nearing the end, so I should have known, but just that was the feeling of watching one that you're like, oh, I feel like the fans are seeing this in the feed and they're like, holy shit. Like,
that was,
this is a big boy.
That's what I thought it was going to be. I was joking when I said it was going to be a face-off surgery.
I thought you were serious.
Oh
no,
I was really looking forward to Nick.
I know. I think I bet you would have loved to see a little.
Would the face-off surgery be possible? Could you do
that,
Dave?
Could you do that, Dave?
Oh yeah, they do face transplants now.
You put Nicolas Cage's face on people, on your clients?
I mean, I haven't. It's technically possible, but no.
But if someone asked you to,
I haven't put Nicolas Cage's face on anyone yet.
Oh man,
but I'm still early in my career, so there's time.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
John, why don't you give us the breakdown and let's get into it?
Here we go. So I guess the ick factor had to do. These are the charts, right, Dave? That's what we called them. Charting.
Charts?
We're charting.
Yeah, charting.
We're charting. We're charting right now. We're charting.
John's charting for us.
We're charting. Charlotte and Harry were charting. Two different things. The through line was kind of romance. The idea of romance, and I like the analogy of like tasty delight passing as real ice cream. Have we become romance intolerant? And so Samantha's storyline, I guess, has to do. I don't know where the through line really fits in with her, but she wants to get bigger breasts. She sees pictures of herself in a magazine with Smith and decides that she wants bigger breasts. And eventually she finds out that she has breast cancer. Charlotte and Harry, Charlotte really buys into this idea that Petrovsky is being very romantic, and Harry kind of plants a flag and says he can be equally romantic. They go out, they get the fucking fromage and cheese plate. They get a 7-course French meal and end up with food poisoning the rest of the night. Miranda and Steve, of course, get engaged and married in the same episode. And then Carrie is kind of the main story about romance, feeling that it's a little bit too much from Petrovsky, and ultimately ending up at McDonald's wearing an Oscar de Laurentiis pink dress. And so, the question is, are we romance intolerant?
Well, before we get into the storyline, I think a good jumping off point would be, because we've heard a lot about Jon's story. Cory and I are both single. Jon, we've heard a lot about his story with Katie that I think had a level of romance to it. So, Dr. Dave Sieber, what was the romance between you and your wife early on? Do you lay the romance on, or was it? Do you feel like it was a tasty delight situation, or what is your view on romance, and how did your wife accept it? If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, if you were to ask her now, we would be at McDonald's, but not in an Oscar de la Renta. Just at McDonald's.
Yeah.
But no, I think there has to be like some aspect of that kind of, in the beginning phases of a relationship, because that's what kind of, piques interest. I think it kind of makes it more fun. It's more playful, but I think it's harder as you've been in a relationship for a really long time to be more romantic. It just takes more effort. It's not impossible, but it just takes more effort.
Yeah. What would you say was the grandest gesture you showed to your wife early on, like the most romantic, like taking a risk?
Well, I don't want to put
gesture.
words in his mouth, but they met in the most romantic way possible.
Let's
It's
hear
true.
it.
MySpace.
What was it? Oh, wow.
Dude, the OG online dating, MySpace.com.
You guys were set up by your mutual friend, Tom.
I fucking love Tom.
Yeah. He got you a wife.
He's never responded to my emails, but yeah, he's great.
Okay, so give us the rundown. Like, you slipped into her inbox?
Her top friends.
Yeah, top. I don't remember. Was it 8 or 9?
Top
How many?
8.
There's 6.
Top eight.
Top 8. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was friends of a friend, and I saw her and thought she was pretty cute, and then I made up some line about my parents wanting to get another white dog, and she had a white dog at the time, and the thing that really captivated her was my good grammar. That was really kind of what sealed the deal in the messages we exchanged for months before we actually met in person. And then when we did meet in person, she, of course, selected a secure location where she knew I wouldn't be able to, like, kidnap her, which was smart. That was smart.
Where was the secure location?
It was a restaurant she used to work at on the west side of Chicago.
Oh, smart. So like all the staff and everyone knew her, and they were able to step in if you were.
She's very smart. She was going to make sure she wasn't abducted by a weird guy from MySpace.
Yeah. Did you? Oh, go ahead.
That's before. This is in a time when internet dating had a lack of social, acceptance. You know what I mean? I feel like
before Facebook.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. That is that is a fucking Russian poem. That is an internet Russian poem being read aloud to ask someone out on MySpace.
Absolutely. Right. I think it's amazing. I'm impressed. So you laid the groundworks for all these Hinges and Bumbles and
Tinder.
And Tinders.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
straight OG.
All right. Well, what storyline should we start with?
Let's I don't know.
Let's start with Harry and Charlotte. Yeah. I think for the second week in a row, Charlotte and Harry's kind of had the weakest storyline, in my opinion. It was great seeing.
I disagree that that's a weak storyline.
Well, you think it's like, sorry, there's a huge bug on the window. I'm gonna try to kill it. Why do you think it wasn't a weak storyline?
It's 100% necessary. Is it? Maybe you're using the language I disagree with. It's light. It's not heavy. But when you're balancing breast cancer, I would say of all of the light storylines that they throw at people, this one is very relatable and central to the question, which is like, sometimes you try and be really romantic, and then there's the reality of like, hey, the person that you love and you want to spend your life with, it doesn't matter if you're going to the Met. You're going to be run into the bathroom taking dumps and that they have real love. Like, I think there's actually a lot of depth to this story for Charlotte York to be like, think of what she wanted. She would want to be asked to dance in front of the Met and then go see La Traviata. And yet she's kind of, it's a shitty night. Ironic. Didn't mean to do that. But but really, like, she is settling into the love that she's wanted for so many years, and it's not what she wanted. And that's a story for so many relationships.
Dude, that was poetry, man. That you convinced me. So do you think it was the weakest storyline of the episode, though?
I think that it was the lightest, but I do think there's a really beautiful, like, comfort to it, that it's like, think of, like, imagine Charlotte York seeing her future life and being like, I'm going to be happy in this moment.
Yeah.
I'm with this person I love. This person showed me this, and this is what love is. This is what life is. This is what marriage is. And you have it. And it's not her being like, she didn't even say, like, I wanted this. The dinner wasn't ruined. We got food poisoning. I'm with the person I love.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was light, but I thought that there was like an undertone of like a really cool storyline for Charlotte. And also I think like most people that are in long-term relationships are like, yup. That's what Katie, we watched the episode with Katie, Jon's wife, and she was just like, I mean, they had 7 courses. What did they expect?
Yeah. Dude, like, trust me, when we went on our honeymoon in Italy a year after our wedding and just like crushing pasta and bread every single night, you were feeling your least romantic after just the cheese and olive oils. So I get it.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a really good, it was a really good storyline to juxtapose to Carrie and the Russians, though, because it gave, you saw Carrie's storyline was this like over romanticized experience that she eventually in the end like couldn't even take because it was so, in her words, like un-American. And then you had Charlotte's storyline, which is basically what people are kind of more familiar with, I think.
Yeah. That is really interesting, the juxtaposition of the two. My question for Carrie's storyline, did she really faint or was that her swoon, like a fake swoon?
I feel like I took it as a weird out of nowhere actual faint. That's the way it seemed. Yeah.
Like, Dave, should she see a medical professional if that's happening to her?
Usually the first faint is free. And then if it happens again, you need to see someone. That's kind of the general rule.
The first faint is free.
Yeah.
So anybody can faint.
Dude,
but if it becomes a problem.
Anytime you know a doctor, like there's one hint of like, oh, they're so smart. There's another thing you're like, man, doctors just go to school and become doctors. Like when you find out what's going on in medical school and they're like, chapter 1, the first faint is free. You're like, is my life okay?
Doctors, but your life though, Dave, has to be the same thing as like any special. How many people just ask you questions that are just like, they're like that, like, I fainted.
Oh yeah,
am I okay?
All
and you're
the time.
like, I do plastic surgery.
Well, I mean, both of you have asked me a question have asked 100%. Dave a question through me
all the time. Yeah.
Literally, right when Dave got on the Zoom, Cory, you're like, I get these things. Like you hit him with one right away.
I was like, is there a good eczema cream for me?
Yeah. I was like, have you heard of Pompilox? I mean, I don't even struggle with that thing anymore. I was just like, was it real? Can you tell me, Dave? I mean, yeah, you must get hit with so many unsolicited questions all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, the ones that are really surprising, it'll be like a friend from college that you haven't talked to in like 15 years. And then all of a sudden you'll get like a picture and your phone will go off and you open up your messages and you'll be like, what am I looking at here?
Oh, man. That's unbelievable. Wait, I have a question. Has anyone ever been to, I know I have with Cory, has anyone been to the Met to see an opera?
I went. Yes, I forgot what I saw. It was a couple years back.
I saw the Magic Flute.
We saw Magic Flute. Yeah.
Oh,
Dave, you and Caroline go to the opera, and Dave lives in San Francisco. He's not a New Yorker, but you guys have been to the opera in San Francisco, right?
We haven't been to the opera here yet. We've been to the symphony.
Symphony.
Mm.
Maybe that's what I saw. I think I saw the symphony. I don't remember.
Well,
sorry,
I saw La Boheme 2 years ago, and it was like, I didn't realize this, but on Broadway you have 10 or 15-minute intermissions, and then you just get back to your seat. But they had like 45-minute intermissions, and then people would go to the restaurant like on the balcony and then have like $150 like quick course. Like they work it in. Like there was a sense that I was like, this is not my idea of a fun night, but it's like that crest of the world. Mm-hmm. They like work that into like, oh, you're here all night, and there were people in the tuxes. Like it was fun to go once. I can't imagine making it my regular thing. Like I can't imagine if that's what you do like 7 times a year. I'd be like, fucking kill me. But it was fun to go experience. But also I was just like, man, they really milk you for the cash.
Yeah.
I think Petrovsky's going to be okay dropping the cash. So the move that we talked 2 weeks in a row now about Petrovsky's creepiness, and it's funny that they actually brought it up when he fed her berries and how Miranda was completely skeezed out by it. But that, like, buying that dress from the magazine and giving it to Carrie on opera night, that was quite the move.
That was a strong move right there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, also that they played into it by her being like, oh, I'll go back and change. And then I thought about this because we talked about this on our last episode, the thing of like, anyone can do anything, but it depends on context and is it creepy? Like I thought the box right there was like, oh, this could be creepy, but that is a strong move that he just went all in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that is one of the strongest moves, romantic, like just one of the strongest moves you could do, because also it shows, I guess, and we did this last episode, so I'm not bringing it back up, but I do think it like you said, Corey, like it pairs with the creepy conversation, which I think the part that is the difference with the dress is it involves like listening.
Yeah.
That involves like that, because I think some moves can seem creepy when they are just applied blanket to anybody, and then you can interpret that as like a way that this guy just gets laid. But this was like, what?
Go ahead.
Well, I think that this is why it was one of the strongest moves and affected us all, and we're all like, this is awesome, is because it was him knowing that this dress was for her, and he was listening to her, and then she's like, and it's about their connection. I just thought it was amazing.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think that like what you're saying is like, when it isn't involved with listening, it just goes off a stereotype of like, well, this is what women want. And speaking of guys just doing that, I might be jumping storylines, but what about those 2 perfectly cast actors looking at boobs on the stairway, being like,
dude, what are they up to?
Oh my god. Sitting there
Can we
Samantha,
get them on the fucking podcast?
Dude, we have to get them on.
Of God.
We have to get them on. I'm trying to find them right now. They were incredible.
I feel like they're a comedy team named like Tit and Bubbles or something like that.
My only wish in the world is that we can just get the raw, uncut footage of that and just have them be like, all right, try one more. And the guy's like, God. They're like, all right, that's a little too much.
One of those guys had to just like the Mask style, like his jaw dropped and his tongue rolled out like a carpet and his eyes shot out of his face.
They're like, we cast the guy because in the room, he did this trick where he could make hearts explode out of his eyes and then come back.
No, but that begs a decent question. Dave, when people come in for a surgery, how do they tell you what size breast they want to increase it to? Do they have a magazine? Do they like pull up a picture?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what a lot of plastic surgeons do, and this is pretty inaccurate, is they have the patients bring in photos of other women's breasts. So kind of like what they were doing on the show, just like going out and finding some breasts you like. Plastic surgeons will have women come in and bring in topless photos of other women whose breasts they like. The problem with that is, let's
What
say,
do you do with the photos after that? What do you do with the photos?
I have a large folder filled with pictures.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Kevin, you want to give me your address after this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll cost a bit to ship it, but I can get it to you.
Yeah.
No, so the what happens is, like, let's say the woman I'm seeing is 5'3" and 115 pounds or something. But the picture they bring me is of a woman who's 5'8" and 140 pounds. It's really hard to like get the sizes right. So, or they'll come in and they'll have like a friend and they'll go, "Oh, my friend has 300cc implants. I want 300cc implants." But her friend could be 20 pounds heavier and 4 inches taller.
Yeah.
So what I do in my office is I have a machine that can actually take a 3D picture of the patient, and then I can put implants using the software in their own breasts so they can see what it looks like. And they've done
Ooh.
studies on this machine, and it's accurate to about 96%. That the results can be 96% similar to what they see in the simulation.
That's cool. If we come visit you in San Francisco, can you simulate us getting breasts?
Any
Yeah.
size you want.
I would love
Yes.
some 300 cc's. I would love
All right.
some on me.
We'll see you in San Francisco. We're doing it.
Yeah.
That scene with Samantha, like watching the women walk down the stairs, her acting was so great in that scene.
And
Yeah.
then the bartender.
Oh yeah, the bartender.
Oh, yeah. The bartender
Yeah.
when they got to do the cocktail shake and the boob shake at the same time.
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
Do you
They really
know
telegraphed
Dr.
that.
Bevel? Is Dr. Bevel a real doctor?
World renowned.
Really?
No, I'd never heard of him.
Is this what? You don't have to answer this. This is like weird, but like, what's your
I probably
relationship to breasts now? Like,
Oh, it's still great.
like, okay. I guess my question is this: like, my assumption would be once things are like fully medical. Like, I know people that are doctors. Like, you know, like you operate on a heart, you can like cut a thing open. You're still like attracted to your wife, but when it's so like, does this affect your view of attraction and human sexuality in any way? Do you feel like it's changed you in any way as like a warm-blooded male?
No, I think if anything, it makes you like appreciate it more because you like know the limitations of what you're able to do now, but then you kind of like appreciate both like natural anatomy, but also like augmented anatomy. It's just kind of like, I don't know. No, but I don't think it's changed anything.
Yeah, look at the gourmet chef. They're not going to be living off of like protein shakes. Most of the people that like spend their lives working with food are people who appreciate food the most and like will like.
And I really appreciate breasts.
There you go.
He understands all the nuances.
So then let's get into. I think we covered Carrie and Charlotte. We can go back to that if we want, but let's cover Miranda and Steve.
So you were Kevin. You got super excited about Miranda and Steve, specifically when he got stuck to the street after dropping his bags.
Yes. So okay, so we've talked about this. I used to do Sex and the City tours. I had never actually seen the show, and if you've done a tour of Sex and the City, like, you know, like now that we've watched all of it, I don't give a fuck about Magnolia Bakery. It's cool, but it's like, it's fun. But there was a few things on the show that like I completely forgot that they get married. It's like right on 6th Avenue. There's this really great library that I forget what it's called now, but it's I can look it up. But it's
New York
really,
Public Library.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But I think there's a scene with that later. I think that's where Carrie gets married. But it's in Greenwich Village, and like it's just a beautiful space already. And so whenever I would do the tour there, I'd be like, "This is where Miranda and Steve get married," and I just forgot And so when it showed up, I was like, oh my gosh.
You
this is
fanboyed
where I
out
used to do
really
the tour.
hard.
Fanboyed out really hard. It's a beautiful place for a wedding. And also, like, I think it really does kind of embody. I don't think you can have as low-key a wedding as they said, but it really does kind of embody, like, that'd be the perfect place to have a low-key wedding in New York. And I don't think it's as easy as it seemed. But maybe that could have been the case like 15 years ago.
It's
in
called,
like
yeah. It's called Jefferson Market Garden. It's on
Yes.
10th and 6th.
Yes.
I know
looks
right
like
where
a
that is.
Cute little place.
Yeah.
Also, like, big ups to New York in this episode with those fall colors.
Oh, honor
And
to
it's
New York.
fall right now.
Man.
We're fucking dying. Watching this, I was like, my heart was just like, I got shivers the whole time, being like, this is my favorite season in the year in New York, and they're crushing it.
Yeah. They were nailing it.
Now, where did you? I was at John and Katie's wedding. It was just their thing in Kentucky. They got married in a cave. They got married in a. Where did you get married, Dr. Dave Sieber?
We got married just west of Chicago on a river. So there seems to be kind of a water theme here with the Siebers.
Yeah, there's something going on with the Siebers and water.
Siebers, we love water. We're an aqua-based family when it comes to our romance. They're tied very, very closely to one another.
What did you think, Dr. Dave? What did you think of Miranda and Steve's romance? How do you feel, just like dipping into it? How do you feel like their relationship is? What space do you think it's at? Are you happy with their? If you were a +1 to their wedding, how would you feel?
I would feel. I mean, I'd be honored to be invited. It looked like a pretty small wedding.
Yeah,
dude.
True.
Dave would be hanging out drinking beers with Ma.
Yeah, Ma seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, but I think the thing, again, this is going back to like, and which I think the producers did such a great job is showing all the different relationships kind of so different, but at the same time. And like theirs is just like kind of casual, but maybe not quite as casual as she kind of like advertises it as. Because at first it was like, I'm not going to make a big deal. I don't want to do anything. And then she ended up still having a wedding with formal vows and had some people there. But I think it, it just shows that different people's relationships are just kind of different. And that's okay. There's no like standard formula.
Yeah, I like that Miranda was still able to be the bossy bride. But like it was about her bossiness was about Samantha. Like, like I think Charlotte was kind of like the diva bride who wanted everything perfect in her way. Miranda still got to be the bride and still have her day, but it was about her friends and her people and letting Samantha share the news with her, which I thought did a really good job showing Miranda.
That was really good. And also, like, I do think that like marriage and weddings, like, there is this balance between being like, it's just a piece of paper, and people that go full bridezilla, because it is. I thought what she articulated was what a lot of people feel nowadays. It's like, I want my friends and family there, and I want to say these vows to this person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those are really important things that kind of embody what a wedding is actually for when you get down to the kernel of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than being like, I want a big celebration. Like, sometimes people think that that gives it more meaning, when really, like, that's probably something that you could go back to like the 1600s and they'd be like, yeah, that's what it's about. It's about getting the important people there and saying these vows and having those people, like, this was a very pure wedding in a way that you wouldn't expect from what you think about Sex and the City, because we've never seen this. But I was like, this is like getting back to the basics in like a really like traditional way, in a great way.
I mean, if you look at it, it's like the way that they came about it when Miranda asked Steve, which, by the way, shout out to Pete's Tavern, where they were sitting at Pete's.
Shout out to Pete's Tavern.
But they're sitting at Pete's and they're kind of doing this like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get old and grouchy and stuff.
Well, I don't want to wait for our lives to be over.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now, what will it be?
Is that what is the second line? What is it?
I don't want to leave. I don't know.
I never know the second line.
Have we mentioned on the pod yet? Kevin brought up that Brady, who is Miranda and Steve's child, looks so much like a young version of the apparently kid.
Apparently,
Dave, do you know the apparently kid?
No, but I'm going to look him up as soon as we're done.
Oh yeah,
amazing. Just like, do you remember the little chubby redheaded pale baby that they were holding at the wedding?
Yeah.
Okay, just look up the
apparently video.
Just look up the apparently kid who had a tremendous 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, I'd say he had 20. He had 20 minutes of fame.
But he looks very much like that baby.
But no, the point I was making real quick is that Miranda and Steve's ends up being the purest one because she realizes that moment. She's like, I don't care about the big wedding. I just want to like do, and like a wedding is a ritual. And she's like, I want to go through this ritual to like mark this and actually like cross this threshold and do it without all the pomp and circumstance and stuff.
Yeah.
And as a lawyer, she understands the legal implications of marriage as well.
Do you think she made Steve sign a prenup?
Probably. She should have. I feel like she would definitely do it. Yeah.
Steve Brady's level, he doesn't know anything. He'd have his bar taken from him.
Yeah, he could have his bar taken from him. Yeah. You got to watch that. Yeah.
Let's talk about Samantha. That was the curveball of the century. I didn't see that one coming.
No.
That was heavy. And
they did that well. I can imagine I would imagine the first time anyone saw that, they were like, what?
Dave, does that happen frequently where people come in for a plastic surgery or some sort of procedure and they find something horribly wrong?
No, I would say not frequently, but it for sure happens.
Has it happened to you?
It has. So I had a patient who, so I have like certain, and I think most surgeons do, they have kind of, there's age recommendations according to a whole bunch of different groups on when you should start having people get like mammograms prior to surgery. So if you're like, 24 and you're getting a breast augmentation, the chance of you having like a lump or breast cancer is pretty low. I mean, not zero, but pretty low. And as you get older, especially if you have a family history of breast cancer, you have an increased risk. So most people have a certain age where they make people get mammograms. And I had a patient who I did. Before she had surgery, I made her go get a mammogram. And she had another procedure a year prior and had a normal mammogram. And I made her go get another one. And sure enough, she had a mass on the mammogram and it ended up being breast cancer.
Wow.
So, I'll have patients that'll still come in and they'll say, I'm fine. I don't want to get a mammogram, but I'm pretty insistent now after diagnosing someone that, listen, I'm not doing this just to be a pain in the ass, even though, even during COVID, it is a pain in the ass to get a mammogram, but it's really for your own safety because if we were to find something, it's better to take care of it now than for you to pay and have this surgery and then to discover something later. I mean, it's my due diligence as your surgeon to kind of look into these things. And that's why I really have to commend Dr. Bevel on his excellent physical exam before he did the breast augmentation.
Do you watch Bevel vids in medical school as to how to properly diagnose someone?
Oh yeah. They start us early on those. There's a whole library.
Step one, day one, first feign is free. Day two, the Bevel Dictionary of Breast Examinations.
Bevel nailed it.
Get on my level. I'm Dr. Bevel.
There has to be someone like TV doctors. I mean, this is stepping outside of Sex and the City, but like ER, Grey's Anatomy. Is there someone that, are they doing a good job for the most part? Like, do you watch TV doctors and you're just like, that is so unbelievably unrealistic? Like, we as people who live in New York, we see the apartment that Carrie lives in and we're like, that is so unbelievably realistic. This will never happen. Do you get that vibe from TV doctors?
Oh yeah, all the time. There's even I review a lot of like journal articles before they're published, just like a lot of surgeons do. And there was a paper recently about like the media's perceptions of plastic surgeons, and like the take home message from the paper was that the media doesn't perceive plastic surgeons as like, really trusting, good people. They're usually kind of like maybe a little sleazy, like not totally, just kind of whenever you think of a plastic surgeon like in Doc Hollywood or something, they're always kind of like off a little bit.
Mm.
But yeah,
Totally.
when I watch medical shows, most of the time you're like, no, that's like for sure not correct.
Interesting. I think TV has to do that. Like the one where I notice it is whenever they have a court scene in TV. Like we watched Liar Liar a couple weeks back, and like that's like a divorce settlement, and it's in like the most beautiful courtroom. There's bystanders. Like no, that shit was settled in like a basement, smelly courthouse somewhere with like some judge that hates themselves. Like it was not this big, beautiful.
And also there's with those things too, like, it's, there's also like, you don't have the doctor, I don't know, doctors or lawyers or anything. It's like, sometimes they have to like rifle through paperwork. They're not as organized. Like sometimes it's like the seamlessness that probably, this is your day-to-day life. Yeah.
Lots of charts.
Yeah.
And doctors have horrible handwriting. Dave, you have pretty bad handwriting, right?
Yeah, it's hard for me to read most of the time.
Good grammar, but bad handwriting.
Terrible handwriting.
Terrible.
Bad penmanship.
Yeah, they check that before med school.
But plastic surgery, even in this episode, definitely had a negative connotation. Like Kevin, you kind of said, like, I think this was filmed in 2004 and 2005, and I think that was probably early 90s, 2000 is like still when it was viewed negatively in the media. And I think now, I'm hoping now it's perceived more in a positive light because like you said, like it's people's bodies and they should be able to do what they want with them, make them feel however they want.
Yeah. Like when they were saying, oh, you don't want to look like a bimbo. I mean, they use some of those terms that are kind of like, degrading a little bit. That you don't really hear people describe like women with big breasts like that anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah, they have other words that aren't bimbo.
But it's also like, if someone was heavy set and they're like, I want to go on a diet to change the way my body looks, you'd never hear someone be like, you don't want to look like a stick figure freak. Like they'd be like, oh, I support you.
I definitely feel like there's more acceptance of that in good and bad ways. This has nothing to do with your job as a plastic surgeon, but I do feel like there's a limit to which there's like an over acceptance of it. Like I've seen, so on our Instagram, like just because of the things that we follow and the people that follow us, like our algorithm, like we get in the discover page, like lots and lots of people. And there's certain people that I've seen that are very young that clearly are getting lip injections on a level that does not appear to be healthy, especially when it's like when you're that young. And that's something I've seen with like, I would have never been exposed to that if I wasn't running a Bradshaw Boys Sex in the City Instagram. But there are certain things like that I'm like, I bet the lip injection market has exploded with people like the Kardashians. And then you see whoever the young Kardashian, like you see her lips, and then you see certain people get that. And you're like, I want people to look beautiful and I want people to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. I've also seen like massive, quick acceptance of getting stuff into your lips. And I'm like, that looks like something went wrong with your lips.
But why do you get to be the judge?
Because I'm a human. Like everyone gets to be a judge, and there's like, that's not me being a judge. That's the whole point. Like we have a judge of what I'm saying is not the physical judge of whether it looks good. I'm saying it definitely looks like that sort of procedure got accepted very quickly and lots of people are running to get it. And the procedure's not quite done yet. Like there is like probably certain ages that you shouldn't be getting stuff like that.
Well, one of the things that has happened for sure with social media is it's developed kind of unrealistic expectations.
Hmm.
So the problem is you can look at a picture on Instagram of whoever, and like
Mhm.
you don't know what that person actually looks like. The only
That's
thing
true.
you know is how they look like in that photo.
Mm.
And you'll have people come in the office and they'll say, "Hey, I face tuned myself to look like this. Can we do this?" And you have to look at them and be like, "Listen, like you don't look like that now, and I'm good at what I do, but like I'm not good enough to make you look like a morphed version of yourself using some sort of technology."
Right.
Hmm.
Well, do you think, kind of going off of like what Kevin was saying, depending on how extreme someone's going, is there ever a thing? Is there ever like a moral quandary or anything? If someone came in and they like could use like a face brushing filter, they look like a beautiful anime character or something in some picture, and they're like, I want to look like this. If they want to do a massive change, do you ever have to be in a position where you're like, hang on, let's take this step by step and understand what we're about to do, and feel like you need to talk people out of things?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, and I think one of the beauties about what I do is that all the plastic surgeons have kind of different aesthetics, so we have different ideals of what we consider beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And if these patients go and see whoever, they're going to eventually, if they see 10 surgeons, they're eventually going to find someone who's going to make them look like however they want to look because
Hmm.
the surgeon just wants to do the procedure and take the money.
Mm.
I don't agree with that. I mean, the patients who I operated on are representations of me and my ideals uh, a lot of the time. So if they're out walking around and telling people that I did their surgery, but they look crazy because I did something stupid to them,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that's not a good reflection of me as a surgeon or me as my aesthetics or taste in what I think is beautiful.
Mm.
But
That's
like,
really interesting.
if
Yeah.
you look at something like the Brazilian butt lift, which the Kardashians have kind of made famous, doing liposuction and then injecting the fat. If you go down to
Mm-hmm.
South America, which I have, and you talk to the South Americans about a quote unquote Brazilian butt lift, they don't want anything to do with it because when they
Mm.
inject fat into the butt, the same procedure, it's very tastefully done. It's to create a nice, round aesthetic shape to the butt without making it look like someone put bricks in the back of their pants.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's super interesting.
Can I ask a question before we do the Cosmo rating, which was what would you say, any of us, what would you say was the message for Samantha's storyline? Why did they bring in, was it just like breast, like she wanted bigger breasts, now she's going to have most likely a double mastectomy? Like, was it the expectations, or what do you think was the theme or the message they were trying to get across with this storyline? Or what did you take from it?
You're asking all of us?
Yeah, I'm just putting it out there.
I can
I mean,
start. Oh, go ahead, Corey. You go.
What? No, I was just gonna say. I think we talk about this all the time, and like we talked about it. There's a major thing with Samantha last episode with her and Smith and Richard, but
mhm.
I think this is teeing Samantha up for like another stage of growth. Like I think she was going to go into this thing where we found out a couple episodes ago she's 45 and she is in this place where she was like, I'm going to get new tits. I think I'm perfect, but I want this, which is totally fine. But I think that they're trying to go from this aesthetic that they've always had of her being like fun loving, caring about herself, and try to take her into something that's deeper, that's like a scary life or death thing, and
Yeah.
kind of take her out of like a fun aesthetic thing and take her into like some serious life stuff. And I think this is just the beginning of that. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think Samantha's ideals are like being taken away from her. I think last episode we saw like the ideal of sex being the singular pursuit, and that kind of being taken away with that crummy experience with Richard. And now I think like the next way Samantha would define herself is her body. And I know people that sometimes get cancer feel as if it's their body betraying them. And so now it's kind of like her body has also betrayed her to like unravel and unpeel who she is deep down, which I think it's ultimately going to be like what we've kind of noticed. She's not just like a 40-something-year-old fuckboy. She is like a person with substance and heart and like a really good friend who's loyal and fierce. And so I think the ideas that she has of herself are going to be they're being removed.
Yeah. And along with that, I think like sometimes they've shown her to be like I thought it was cool that there was like a strength in her cab ride that was not like, I'm not going to deal with it, I'm going to ignore it. It was like, I'm telling my friend, this is what I need to do. Like she seemed grounded and not just like, I don't want to think about it. It was like, I'm going to express this to you so we can go on. And I think sometimes when you're going through something traumatic or scary, you can't just be like, let's like sit and cry for an hour. It was like, I'm in a cab, I'm expressing this to you. And then they had that moment at the end where they're all together. And I thought that was amazing. And I think it was one of Samantha's strongest moments. And I'm sure for anyone that has dealt with sickness or cancer or something like that, like, I don't know, there was a real strength in the way she handled it, and them as a friend group that I thought it made me cry because it did.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Dave, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dave, thank you.
People, where can people find your Instagram and website?
So my Instagram is just dr.davidsieber, and website is my practice is just called Sieber Plastic Surgery. So you put that in Google, that should pop right up.
You Google that like they were Googling Petrovsky a few episodes back. Also, shameless plug. I know you guys, you listeners, are used to Goldman Sachs and Starbucks advertising on our podcast, but Dave and I have started a skincare company called Begin Skincare, and we're launching that. Actually, Cory and Kevin have both been two of our test subjects the past what, like 8 weeks now?
8 weeks, yeah. Look at these tight pores.
Any testimonials?
What pores?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dr. Dave.
My skin is fucking crushing it. I feel better than ever.
But as a male, because men don't typically like to take care of their skin, and we designed a pretty, I want to say kind of an idiot-proof routine. How difficult is it, now that you know how to take care of your skin, for you to take care of your skin?
So easy.
It's so easy, and also it's like the regimentedness of it has made me just like I have eczema, so I actually got used to a regimented
I have eczema.
I have eczema, but I got used to like taking care of my hands better, and I would just put like lotion on my face and be like, oh, that'll fix it. But this to me like has been the same thing for my face. Has been like, all right, I do this, and this, and it gets exponentially better. And you guys said it takes like a few weeks before you feel, I don't know, like it took like 2 weeks before I felt it. And now since then I get insane compliments, and my face is.
You've made me touch your face several times.
Yeah.
How smooth?
It's amazing.
How smooth is it?
You guys were kind of the reason why we came up with this idea. I had so many people asking my brother through me what they should do to take care of their skin. I was like, we should take that routine that Dave told us about and market it. So Begin Skincare, check it out.
Fantastic product.
Yeah, it's a super easy routine for younger and healthier looking skin.
Let's post about it. We'll post about it when we put this episode up, and people can check it out.
Yeah.
So back to your regularly scheduled Goldman Sachs advertisements. That was ours. But Dave, wait, we need to do our Cosmo rating. We haven't done Cosmo rating. Oh,
I have mine.
Ooh,
I got mine.
All right, Dave. Wonderful.
Are these whole numbers, or do they need to be
half and quarter? You can do halves and quarters or fulls.
We're really close.
1.25. You could be a 1.5.
Yeah,
whatever.
we're really close to going over. You have to rate this episode from 1 to 5. Let's do it real quick. Corey, what are you at?
I'm at a 4.
Kevin?
5.
Dave?
I'm gonna do 4.25.
Nice.
I'm gonna go 4.5. This was a fantastic episode. Great guest. Can't thank you enough, Dave. Look up
having me.
Dr. David Sieber, Sieber Plastic Surgery. This was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Dave.
Thanks,
Later,
guys.
taters.
This is fun.
Later, taters.
Later, taters.
Bye.
Bye.
The Bradshaw Boys stars Cory Cavin, Kevin James Doyle, and Jon Sieber. The show is produced by me, Jeremy Balon, and narrated by Katie Sieber. This podcast is part of the Seltzer Kings Network. Check out all their great podcasts at seltzerkings.com. You can find the boys on their socials at The Bradshaw Boys or on their website at thebradshawboys.com. And as always, if you see them in the street, tip your glass. Thanks for listening.